Today I'm in Council Bluffs, Iowa. I'm in the downtown area, a lot of cool old buildings, but we're gonna go in that building right there behind me. That is the Squirrel Cage Jail, and it was open until the 1960s. A very unique kind of jail. They didn't have very many of these types of jails, so we'll go in there, take a tour, I'll tell you all about it. The official name of this building is the Pottawattamie County Jail. And you'll see, obviously, that big crest on the wall. And when you walk in, you see, how you get up to the other floors. But, people lived here while they worked here. So it was kind of an interesting design. It was built in 1885. We're going to walk into the kitchen here. And it closed as a jail in 1969. Now it's a museum. It was put on the National Register of Historic Places in 1972. They built 18 of these rotating jails, and there's only 3 of them left. So there's a little diagram type structure of what it looks like, of what the jail looks like, and how it's circular, and that middle part there, the round part, rotates around, and we'll be able to show you all that here on this tour. So it was created by William Brown and Benjamin Haw of Indiana, and they kind of were inspired by a Lazy Susan concept. So right here, this is as it's rotated on the first floor here, this is the cell that would, you could get out of. The other ones you would not be able to get out. So you can kind of see how the concept works there. It allowed only one cell door to align with the entrance at a time, and it intended to reduce the need for guards to enter the cell area. They rotated the jail with a manual crank, and it was built to be more secure and efficient. So they got pictures of old inmates, and as a museum, they do have some historical artifacts in here, which are pretty interesting to look at, but obviously the jail is the main thing to check out. And apparently when they closed it in 1969, they left it pretty much like it was. I'm sure they've done a few things to update it, but that's pretty much what it was like. There were 10 pie-shaped cells per floor. So then obviously as you walk out of the cell, you'd have a little recreation area, I guess, right there. I guess a lot of card playing happened. Eventually the rotary mechanisms were disabled or removed. The building basically settled, and it made it difficult to rotate. So you can see that, that's the area that would rotate, the big round area, 3 floors of it. So this is the individual cell, solitary confinement back here. It's pretty interesting to walk through here, I can tell you. But that cell right there, that's where you would go into solitary confinement. Eventually they deemed the jail to be inhumane and a bit dangerous as they would rotate around, and sometimes maybe if somebody was sleeping and their arm was hanging out the cell, it could become dangerous for your arm or whatever. So but yeah, there's the solitary confinement. You could house up to 60 inmates, so you got 10 pie-shaped cells, and you could get about 60 inmates in there, 2 per cell. So still on the first floor, and there's 4 floors to the building, because at the top is where there was an apartment basically for people that work there, they live there. There's a map of all the different jails that were built like this in the United States. And now we walk up to the second floor. And the cells are all similar, each floor is pretty much exactly the same. People put their name on the wall. Those are real inmates that were in there. So apparently this is a real popular site for ghost tours and paranormal investigations. Seems like it'd be a great place for a haunted house. Maybe they do that, I'm not aware. I was mostly learning about the history of the building. The little alcove back in the back, that's the restroom. So you see that in there. And there's some artifacts and more history about some of the more, I guess, famous inmates that were held here. There's the jailer that would crank the cells in a rotating manner, and there's the mechanism there. So pretty fascinating that they were able to do that. I think at some time it was also, it wasn't, you didn't have to do it by hand power. They did have a machine that could do it. So they did have a floor, I think, that women and juveniles were on. I think this is that floor. There's also a shower there. Actually, I think the women might have been on the third floor, so this is probably more the juvenile. That's not creepy at all. You can feel the harshness of probably what being here was like. And here's one of the apartments. There's a couple of them in here. Would be interesting to live in a jail. That would be a unique experience. Now up to the third floor. Like I said, I think this is where, if there were women inmates, that they put women on the third floor. A lot of it was kind of cloaked off, but you could see this is the cell that you could access. Kind of reminds you of the movie Shawshank Redemption with the posters on the wall. And there's a lot of kind of history with the police department in the area here too. Infirmary, that was kind of an interesting room to check out. This was open from, like I said, 1885 till 1969, so 84 years that this building was used as the county jail. As we get to the top, this is the kind of bigger apartment area. There's a lot of Lincoln stuff up here. And then you can open that door and see the whole middle of the jail and how all that was, everything that was obviously spun around. It just kind of shows you the mechanism there. Yeah, there's multiple bedrooms up here in this apartment, so a family could stay. And yeah, I don't know what it would be like to live in a jail. I'm guessing for adults it would be, you could probably handle that, but for a young person to live in a jail, that would be a very strange experience and probably would cause me nightmares. So yeah, it's a very unique experience checking out the Pottawattamie County Jail, aka the Squirrel Cage Jail, and really glad I was able to check it out. Definitely worth the visit. There's a squirrel at the Squirrel Cage Jail. Oh, where'd you go, squirrel? Oh, there it went. The Squirrel Cage Jail, squirrel. I love it.